Hi, friend, and welcome back to Marvelous Friends, your home for all things Marvel Cinematic Universe and beyond. I'm Rhett, and today I'm going to be discussing one of the biggest problems with the X-Men animated series on Disney Plus. Roll that credit. One of the best things so far about Disney Plus in regards to Marvel is all the nostalgic programming from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s that are available to watch. And among those is the classic 90s cartoon, the X-Men the Animated Series. However, the X-Men series, as well as a few others, have had some problematic issues when being uploaded to the platform. And for the X-Men animated series, it's the series reshuffling of the order of the episodes in comparison to how they originally aired. And well, it doesn't necessarily affect the story, but it is noticeable at times. But if you want to even go back and look at how it was originally aired, there's more issues. In fact, due to animation production issues, scripting delays, and who knows how many other issues, sometimes episodes aired when they weren't initially intended to due to delays. And so it even skewed the story from how the writers initially planned the story to go. So then the question is risen, how do you actually watch the series in the right order? Well, I'm going to try to answer that the best I can. So for most of the fans out there who are just watching it to watch it and enjoy the nostalgia that comes with the series, just hitting play on Disney Plus is probably fine. And it really doesn't mess with the story too much, like I said, especially in earlier seasons. However, sometimes in later seasons, it can get a little messy with the storyline. For the most part, it's just going to be kind of a wait a second, did I miss something? For example, in season 1, there's a moment where you see the heroes rebuilding the mansion. However, the mansion isn't destroyed in a fight until several episodes later. So you hit that point and you're just like, wait, what a second. Did I miss something? What's going on here? And ultimately, it's not a big deal, but it just kind of leaves you with questions as the viewer. So I'm going to try to go through each of these lists as best as I can, and there are going to be a few lists on this video. So just follow along as best you can and try not to get too confused. If you do get confused, I don't blame you. I got very confused when trying to sort all these differences out. So I'm going to take you list by list in viewing order, starting with the Disney Plus sorting and how it is actually available on the platform. Season 1 on Disney Plus flows as follows with a total of 13 episodes. Night of the Sentinels, Part 1 and 2, Enter Magneto, Deadly Reunions, Captive Hearts, Cold Vengeance, Slave Island, The Cure, Come the Apocalypse, The Unstoppable Juggernaut, Days of Future Past, Part 1 and Part 2, and The Final Decision. Season 2 continues on with its 13 episodes, Till Death Do Us Part 1 and Part 2, Whatever It Takes, Red Dawn, Repo Man, Externally Yours, Time Fugitives, Part 1 and Part 2, A Rogue's Tale, The Beauty and the Beast, Mojo Vision, and finally The Reunion, Part 1 and Part 2. Season 3 continues on with an extension of the number of episodes to a total of 19. This starts off with Out of the Past, Part 1 and 2, and then the 5-part Phoenix Saga. We take a break with the Savage Lands, Savage Heart, Part 1 and Part 2, before we continue into the Dark Phoenix 4-part saga. It then goes on to Cold Comfort, Orphan's Inn, The Juggernaut Returns, The Lotus and the Steel, No Mutant is an Island, and finally Obsession. Season 4 again sees a growth in the number of episodes on the platform with a total of 25. It starts off with Nightcrawler, Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape, One Man's Worth Part 1 and 2, Courage, Proteus 1 and Proteus 2, Sanctuary Part 1 and Sanctuary Part 2, the 4-part Beyond Good and Evil series, Have Yourself a Merlot Little Xmas, Love in Vain, Secrets Not Long Buried, Xavier Remembers Family Ties, the 2-part The Phalanx Covenant, A Deal with the Devil, Longshot, Bloodlines, Stormfront 1 and 2. Just as a note, I do want to point out that those are not typos on my list. Disney must have had autocorrect text or something going on because it actually changed the name of Nightcrawler and Longshot to 2 separate words on both the titles of those episodes. which is incorrect. They are one word on both those instances in regards to the character, Nightcrawler being one and Longshot being one word as well. Also, I just want to point out that technically in the original airing, there is no the on the episode, the Lotus and the Steel. It's just Lotus and the Steel. Not sure why these changes in titles were done because they're kind of silly, but just want to make sure you did realize that there is a difference there. Finally, Season 5 on the platform only has 6 episodes. It is made up of Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater, The Fifth Horseman, Old Soldiers, Descent, Hidden Agendas, and finally, Graduation Day. So let's now get into how to properly order this. And the first list we're going to look at is the list of how they originally aired on Fox's Fox Kids TV programming that aired through most of the 90s on Saturday mornings and after school. Now, this isn't perfect, but it does help a lot with the chronology of the actual episode storyline. But we'll get to how to continue perfecting this storyline as we move on for list to list. And we have a few more lists after this from a few different sources. Now, let's go ahead and get started with how it originally aired between 1992 and 1997 on Fox Kids. On Fox Kids, Season 1 was also 13 episodes, and it ran Night of the Sentinels Part 1 and 2, Enter Magneto, Deadly Reunions, Captive Hearts, Cold Vengeance, Slave Island, The Unstoppable Juggernaut, The Cure, Come the Apocalypse, Days of Future Past Part 1 and Part 2, and then The Final Decision. You're going to notice there isn't much of a change here from how it airs on Disney+. The main difference is going to be episodes 8, 9, and 10. On Disney+, Enter the Juggernaut is the 10th episode of the season, where in fact it aired as 8th. Everything else, though, is the same in the order as it is when it originally aired in 1992 and 93. Season continues again with the same number of episodes, a total of 13. Here we're going to have Till Death Do Us Part 1 and Part 2, Whatever It Takes, Red Dawn, Repo Man, Externally Yours, Time Fugitives 1 and 2, A Rogue's Tale, Beauty and the Beast, Mojo Vision, Reunion 1, and Reunion 2. So if you didn't notice, Season 2 is correct as it airs on Disney+, and it's the only season that is correct, 100% to its original airing date. Moving on to Season 3, it too has 19 episodes. However, you're going to notice a few differences. It starts off with Out of the Past, Part 1 and 2, the 5-part The Phoenix Saga, Savage Lands, Savage Heart, Part 1 and 2, Obsession, the 4-part Dark Phoenix Saga, Cold Comfort, Orphan's Inn, The Juggernaut Returns, Nightcrawler, Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape. Now, most of this 19-episode run of Season 3 is correct, which I would hope so, considering most of the season consists of 9 episodes that happen chronologically and have numbers in their title. No, I don't know what they did beyond that. As you get to the last part of the season, that's where we get problematic. They actually took episodes that were supposed to be in this season and switched them out with episodes that are actually in Season 4 and 5. The episodes they brought in were The Lotus and the Steel, which was mistitled, and No Mutant is an Island. Now, the episodes that were supposed to be in this season were Nightcrawler and Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape, which was the season finale, not Obsession as it is on Disney+. Obsession actually gets moved up between the Phoenix Saga and the Dark Phoenix Saga, along with the episodes that take place in the Savage Lands. Moving on to Season 4, this is a 17-episode run as it originally aired. It starts off with One Man's Worth, Part 1 and 2, Courage, Proteus 1 and 2, Sanctuary 1 and 2, Beyond Good and Evil 1, 2, 3, and 4, Have Yourself a Morlock Little Christmas, or excuse me, Xmas, Lotus and the Steel, Love in Vain, Secrets Not Long Buried, Xavier Remembers, and finally ending with Family Ties. So I'm sure you noticed that this season is actually a lot shorter than it appears on Disney+. And Disney Plus took a lot of liberties with this season if you really think about it. First of all, they took all of what is actually aired as Season 5 on Fox Kids and added it to Season 4, with the exception of 6 episodes. I also want to point out again, here is where we see Lotus and the Steel, which is its proper title, moved in. And not only that, it's actually quite late in the season, meaning they moved it up a total of 14 episodes on Disney+, which is what makes it so confusing when you view it at that point in the story on the platform. And I was very confused. And that is one of the few episodes I will mention really throws it off if you watch it in order on Disney Plus, because there's so many flashes in between Xavier and Logan when they're talking at the beginning of the episode that you just don't understand because they haven't happened yet. And they have almost the entirety of season 1 and 2's length to get to that story point. So that is the major issue. I will say for the most part, it's all right. But like I said, they really did some liberties with cutting and pasting it here and there. So it's really hard to say when you actually separate the episodes out between the two seasons that actually is comprised of the season that is on Disney Plus. Now, when we extend season 5 to its originally aired 14 episodes, it consists of The Felix Covenant 1 and 2, A Deal with the Devil, No Mutant is an Island, Longshot, Bloodlines, Stormfront 1 and 2, and then it finishes off the same way. Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater, The Fifth Horseman, Old Soldiers, Descent, Hidden Agendas, and Graduation Day. I've already kind of touched on many of the issues already that with the episodes as above, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But really quick, we see here again the separation from season 4 and season 5, almost more than doubling, not almost, actually doubling the length of the season to a total of 14 episodes. Here we see where the No Mutant is an Island episode originally aired. However, there are more issues with that episode as we move on to the further lists, but we'll get into that in a moment. I also just want to ask another question real quick for all of you guys. While I was watching this, I was of course using the continue watching feature that automatically triggers the next episode that's common on most streaming platforms. However, I kept having issues of it wanting to jump to the season 5 first episode, Jubilee Fairy Tale Theater, whenever I finished one of the previous seasons. I'm not sure if anyone else had this episode jump issue. Let me know down in the comments if so. Now, of course, I was able to recognize this as an issue because it just seemed different and there was a different opening title and all these things. So I was able to quickly stop it and go back. And then when it happened again, obviously I recognized it. But I'm just curious if you guys had the same viewing issue on Disney Plus that I did. Let me know down in those comments. Here comes the first game changer list as we move on to our script order list. Now this list comes from Stephen Melching, who was one of the primary writers for seasons 3 through 5 of the show. And he mentions when he provided this list that a lot of the issues between how the show was written and how it aired was due to animation studio issues. They had a lot of hard times getting the episodes back in the order that they requested them based upon the scripts that they submitted. And so this means that they had to kind of air the show the best they could based upon the episodes that they received in the order they received them. And you'll kind of see how that really plays out as we go through this list. Now, I also want to point out real quick before we jump into this, scripts are just numbered in the order that they are written. They do not start over at the beginning of each season with 1, so there's going to be some bigger numbers in this one, so don't let that confuse you. Now, the script order for season 1 and season 2 have no changes from how they aired originally, so I'm not going to list through all of those. So we'll jump right into season 3. Episode 27 is the first episode of season 3. Again, it doesn't start over at the beginning of every season with number 1. Now, this starts off with Out of the Past, Part 1 and 2, the 5-part Phoenix Saga, No Mutant is an Island, Obsession, Long Shot, Cold Comfort, Savage Land, Savage Heart 1 and 2, and then the Dark Phoenix Saga 1 through 4. It continues with Orphan's Inn, Love in Vain, The Juggernaut Returns, and finally the season finale was scripted as A Deal with the Devil. Note first that this is slightly longer than the aired season, a total of 2 episodes longer, meaning the original intended season 3 was a total of 21 episodes. Now you have to do the math to figure that out, but that is what it comes down to. I also want to make sure you notice that the changes in between the 2 Phoenix sagas. Now, of course, some of the episodes still here are the same. We have the Savage Land, Savage Hearts episodes, but that now switches place with Obsession, which was intended to go before those 2 episodes. We also see some other episodes move up into here that were actually initially aired much later on, and Longshot in particular not being aired until season 5 originally. Now this was one of the ones that was due to issues with the animation studio not delivering the animation for the episode in time to do all the other production, doing the voiceovers and getting everything in place for it actually to air. Now, moving to the back half of the season, or the last few episodes of it, we see some more shuffling around again. In particular, you see Love in Vain moved here, which was initially aired in season 4 due to the same issues as Longshot. We also see some other ones kind of switching around just in general order. And of course, we see like the Juggernaut, which was originally aired in the season, but it moves back a few slots to make it the second to last episode. And we see A Deal with the Devil move to the season finale of this season. And finally, let's move on to season 4 for Scripps. And I did say finally, as you see that there is no season 5 on this list over here. And there's potentially some more issues on that, which we will talk about. But anyways, the scripted order for these episodes was episode 48 through episode 76. That starts off with Sanctuary 1 and 2, Xavier Remembers, Courage, Secrets Not Long Buried, Nightcrawler, One Man's Worth 1 and 2, Proteus 1 and 2, Family Ties, Bloodlines, Lotus and the Steel, Weapon X, Lies and Videotape, Have Yourself a Morlock Little Xmas, Beyond Good and Evil 1 through 4, The Phalanx Covenant 1 and 2, Stormfront 1 and 2, The Fifth Horseman, Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater, Old Soldiers, Hidden Agendas, Descent, and finally Graduation Day. There is no season 5 again. As you see, the scripted episodes end with the season 4 because all the final episodes were called for during the call list of writing for season 4, if that makes sense. Now, why that is and why season 3 got shortened as well, we'll all circle back to as I sum up this list before we move on. But I want to get into specifically what changed between the episodes. And excuse me, I'm not going to be looking at the camera. I am going to be reading for this next part, so I want to make sure I get it all right because it gets very confusing very quickly. So follow along the best you can. Now, obviously, these scripts start with Sanctuary, not One Man's Worth, which is what started the aired episodes. That actually comes much later on, as you see in the list. Xavier Remembers, aired second to last, which was scripted as the actual third episode of the season, moving Courage to the fourth episode. It aired third. After Courage was scripted Secrets Not Long Buried, which aired late in the season originally, and then Nightcrawler, which was one of the episodes that has moved actually quite a few times between these various lists. Here then is when One Man's Worth actually is placed, switching places with Sanctuary, and then it's Proteus 1 and 2. After that comes Family Ties, which was scripted next, but aired in seasons 4 as the finale. And then Bloodlines was one of the episodes moved to season 5. Here we find another highly shifted episode in Lotus and the Steel. That aired honestly around the same slot if you really change up the numbers and make it start at 1 and shift everything out and cut things. Basically, it still is the same. That and the Christmas special, more or less. Now, after the 4-part Beyond Good and Evil story, everything moves to season 5. So that is a whole other thing, and they did obviously some shifting here, because you can even see some changes in those last 6 episodes that haven't moved up until this point. More specifically, you see that Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater moves to the second of those final 6 episodes. Now, it is important to say that the numbers, again, on the previous list are based upon the number in which they were ordered to be written as scripts. And writing is just one step of that process. There's edits that happen, rewrites that are needed, and changes in the storyline as things develop. For example, maybe there's an episode that is added that will be coming earlier in the story, but isn't ordered much later because all of a sudden the idea comes, like, that's a great idea, we should add that in, but it makes sense here. So yes, this episode is a tough one to say that it's 100% correct as well, which means we're moving on to our next list. Now, this also comes from Steven from Fox Kids and the writer of season 3 through 5, and this is the order that Fox Kids ordered them to be put into production by the animation studio. Now, again, the animation studio is a reason for many of the airing issues altogether because they were behind or who knows what was going on that they sent the episodes back late, and I'm not getting to that again. But let's jump into this again. Season 1 and 2 have no changes. Some reason it's always after season 3 that these episode issues come into play. So I'm just going to skip again to just doing season 3, 4, and 5. As ordered by Fox Kids TV, you'll see that it is again 21 episodes long. Out of the Past 1 and 2, Phoenix Saga 1 through 5, No Mutant is an Island, Obsession, Longshot, Cold Comfort, Savage Land, Savage Heart 1 and 2, Dark Phoenix Saga 1 through 4, Orphans Inn, The Juggernaut Returns, Nightcrawler, and again it ends with Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape. This episode list has some of the same issues it's had up to this point. Slight changes in the episodes and their order between the Phoenix sagas, and then again, the episodes seen a slight change in the order that they are post the Phoenix saga. Now, there aren't any switches in and out of the seasons this time, like we saw comparative to the list 4 and its airing list, but we do see again just minor changes in how these are ordered. Now we get into the initially intended 23 episode season 4, and then we'll get into what that is down at the bottom at the end. So it starts off with Love in Vain, A Deal with the Devil, Sanctuary 1 and 2, Xavier Remembers, Courage, Secrets Not Long Buried, One Man's Worth, Proteus 1 and 2, Family Ties, Lotus and the Steel. You have yourself a Morlock Little Xmas, Beyond Good and Evil 1 through 4, the Phalanx Covenant 2-part, the Stormfront 2-part, and then Bloodlines finishing off that season. Now you'll notice that the last 6 episodes that have seen themselves kind of segregated from everything else are listed as to be determined. And this goes in the order of The Fifth Horseman, Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater, Old Soldiers, Hidden Agendas, Descent, and Graduation Day finishing off the list. Now, much again of this stays in the same order as far as everything goes with the scripted ones, just some slight changes here and there. The main difference here is the to be determined list. Now that gets into what I was talking about earlier when I said I was going to circle back around to this when I summed this all up. Most likely what happened is in the process of scripting season 4, they learned that there was not going to be anything past season 5. And so rather than scripting a bunch more episodes that may not actually ever get used due to a limited number of slots, they made do with what they had and maybe ordered 1 or 2 more episodes really to round out the story and give it a bookend. And so those to be determined episodes probably were early drafts at what was going to start the story building for season 5 in its original belief or concept, I guess is the more appropriate term there. But since that didn't happen, they kind of shuffled around here, taking some episodes where they could to make 3 more equal in length seasons. Now, again, if you go back to how it originally aired, season 5 was only 14 episodes, but that is still about the same length as season 1 and 2, and then season 3 and 4 were roughly the same episode length as well, around 17 to 19 episodes each. Now, I wish I could say this is our last episode list here, but it's not. We have one more to discuss because it is the definitive correct way that you are supposed to watch this. Now, this list comes from Marvel itself. There was a 2-part comic book kind of companion to the animated series that really lays out the episodes and how they were intended to be aired initially. So this is how Marvel Entertainment had kind of worked with the writers to build the storyline. But then, of course, everything happened along the way, and that is what we ended up with. So, this is as correct as of a storyline as we can get. So this is the full list of episodes in order. Now there are no season breaks here, so let's just jump and go straight through the list by name. It starts off with Night of the Sentinels, Part 1 and 2. Enter Magneto, Deadly Reunions. Captive Hearts, Cold Vengeance. Slave Island, The Unstoppable Juggernaut. The Cure, Come the Apocalypse, Days of Future Past, Part 1 and Part 2. The Final Decision, Till Death Do Us Part, Part 1 and Part 2. Whatever It Takes, Red Dawn, Repo Man, Externally Yours, Time Fugitives, Part 1 and 2. A Rogue's Tale, Beauty and the Beast, Mojo Vision, Reunion 1 and 2. Out of the Past 1 and 2. The 5-part The Phoenix Saga, No Mutant is an Island, Obsession, Longshot, Cold Comfort, Savage Land, Savage Heart 1 and 2, the 4-part Dark Phoenix Saga, Orphans Inn, Love in Vain, The Juggernaut Returns, A Deal with the Devil, Sanctuary 1 and 2, Family Ties, Nightcrawler, Secrets Not Long Buried, Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape, One Man's Worth Part 1 and 2, Proteus 1 and 2, Phalanx Covenant 1 and 2, Lotus and the Steel, Courage, Have Yourself a Morlock, Little Xmas, Beyond Good and Evil 1 through 4, Xavier Remembers, Bloodlines, Stormfront, The Fifth Horseman, Jubilee's Fairy Tale Theater, Old Soldiers, Hidden Agendas, Descent, and then finally Graduation Day. Again, here we see very few changes in the list through the Phoenix Saga, and then that is where things again kind of shuffle around. And that seems to be the problematic section of this entire series, is that last back half of the series where things really started to get messy. And I think a part of that was the actual cancellation of the show, and that it was not going to be continuing on past what was to be season 5. And so really and truly, the producers had to make work what they had. And it still is a good show. Now, if you are going to watch it this way, you will have to focus on the names of the actual episodes and jump around a lot. So like I said, potentially this isn't for everyone, and you'd rather just hit play and enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, do know that if you watch it in this order, there are no storyline issues, and everything flows in perfect order with all the last times, all the references made in episodes, and all the little nuanced details that make Marvel Marvel. Now, again, is it worth it? Am I going to do this? Probably not. I mean, I just finished watching the series, so I'm probably not going to go through and watch it again just to watch it in the correct order. Maybe someday down the road I will. But I would love to know, are you going to go back through, or are you going to make your first viewing of this or your next viewing of this in the proper order, or at least try to do so? I'm very interested to know. Let me know down in those comments. Now, I don't want you guys to feel like I kind of just circled you guys around just for a super long video. I really wanted you guys to understand how problematic this process was for this series. And it's not all Disney Plus's fault here, because there's obviously several episodes and sometimes they got things more right than wrong. For example, season 4 really was supposed to be the longest season, and then there was only 5 really episodes written for season 5 by the point that the episodes were called to be no longer scripted. And so I can't fault Disney Plus 100%. That's really what I'm getting at here. So don't hate me for really dragging on this video. I hope you were able to follow along well enough. If you enjoyed this huge amount of information, give it a like. And if you didn't, well, still give it a like. I hope you understand. And now that is going to do it for today, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Hopefully you guys are subscribed and set your alerts to get all my future content. And with that said, I hope you all have a marvelous rest of your day. Bye, friend.